everyone, and welcome to episode 732 of Longbox Heroes, the Lamborghini of comic book podcasts. I'm Todd, along with Joe. How are we doing today, Joe?
I'm learning a lot today. I apologize last week with the lateness of the show. There's WordPress issues that are in my control, and there's WordPress issues that are out of my control.
Right.
I was trying to upload it from 4 different sites. Usually, for some reason, when I upload At Odds on a Thursday night, I can't upload it through Chrome. I have to upload it through Firefox. I had the Chrome issue. I had the Firefox issue. I had the Opera issue. I had the Edge issue. I wasn't going to download and install a 5th browser. I almost swore there. And I just said, I'm going to bed. It's up on the Patreon. It's up there for free. It's always up there for free. Todd and I, in between recordings, we're discussing the nuclear option for everything.
Right.
I do have it in my calendar that come whatever day that's going to be when I have the tete-a-tete with Studebaker, that it does not come to that. I have that in my calendar for November 1st. I also learned today that the Twitter app won't allow you to schedule posts.
Right.
But you could do it through the browser. I did not know this.
Right, and you call people crazy who say you couldn't through the Twitter app.
I don't know. It seems like a flaw in the service, one way or the other. You know, the same.
Right, the only flaw on X, by the way.
I know there's certain emojis that you could only get through the app, and there's certain ones that you could only get through the browser.
I'll take your word on that one.
Yep. But yeah, it's been a learning experience these last 7 days. Hey, Todd, what do we have to learn about tonight on the show?
All right. In news, we have absolute Batman news, J. Michael Straczynski news, new books from some of our favorite creators in 2025, and not to be outdone, Marvel has some late books too. I'm giving my writers a raise this week. But
I was gonna mention whoever wrote that copy for you.
Right, is a genius. Conventions, which may be close and near and dear to my heart. Our latest edition of Becky's My Walk Down Lois Lane, How Not to Treat a Woman, by the way. What we read last week, which was Absolute Batman #1, Action Comics 1070, and I may touch on Fantastic Four #26. What we're looking forward to this week. Todd and Joe have issues where we read Gail Simone's Secret Six in its entirety. This week it's issue 24. And finally, spoiler-filled talk of both the latest episode of Agatha and Penguin. So it's going to be a short show, though, Joe.
If it is a short show and you have these capabilities through your podcatcher of choice, you could always play the show at ×2 speed. I assume that Todd and I speak slow enough that it'll just sound like normal people. Yeah,
I think that is like we are like mammoths just stumbling through the forest slowly. So.
Yes. Now, one thing I forgot to mention when I was writing your opening copy there, we have a bit of a follow-up from last week in regards to the Amalgam omnibus that's getting tossed.
Right, pulped,
if you will. Paul Levitz, the great Paul Levitz. I can't imagine anyone who doesn't like Paul Levitz. He had posted up on his social media that this is not the first time that something Amalgam related had to be pulped. Back when they were doing their crossover with Marvel, essentially he had some early unbound, uncovered copies to look at on his way home, and part of the agreement with the Marvel and DC things that there was to be no house ads in the books.
Right.
There would be your normal ads that would be in comic books at that time, snack foods, Stridex pads, video games, that sort of thing, right? Whatever happened to Stridex pads?
I don't know. I stopped using them years ago when I just gave up.
But I don't even see ads for them anymore.
Okay, I'll look it up while you keep going.
All right. So he's thumbing through these unbound, uncovered copies and notice while there are no Marvel house ads in them, there are DC house ads in them.
Right.
So he had to quick scramble, get to a payphone, as he mentioned. Again, this is like 1996. and tell them that they had to scrap all the stuff that they had and reprint them without the DC Trade house ads in them, which is a pretty funny story. And he said that maybe these books are cursed and never to be collected or come out.
I don't know. It seems like all the creators definitely on it were on the up and up. No bad apples in that bunch. So,
oh my goodness,
I'm gonna say I don't know. Yeah, that is crazy. That it's like the curse of amalgam.
Mm-hmm. But a book that's not cursed is Absolute Batman. We're going to be talking about the book itself a little bit later on in the show, but it is in the news because, of course, it is a first print sellout at the retailer level, which is a good thing. There, obviously the stories abound. Did you see the story about how the regular A cover is the more sought after one than the variant covers?
No, I didn't see that part.
So that dastardly Rich Johnson over at Bleeding Cool was making a joke, right, saying the way that DC does their variant covers is they're just a cardstock cover that goes over the existing book.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, well, if you're crafty enough, your cardstock cover is like $5, but the cover A, which is right underneath your cardstock cover, is selling on the secondary market for like $10 to $12. And if you really wanted to flip it, you can just take the staples out, take that cardstock cover off, and you have a cover A.
Right, running that Absolute Batman comic cover opportunity.
Yes. But I'm happy that the initial sales are doing well. Scott Snyder did a red edit AMA and said that he and the artist Nick Dragotta are going to be on the book for at least 2 years.
Okay.
So that is also, I think, beneficial to come out and say that this isn't just like we're doing 6 issues or we're doing this or we're doing that. The fact that this creative team, and it would hopefully lead me to believe that the other 2 creative teams on the Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman books are also on for at least a 2-year run, that DC at least has a 2-year plan for these books.
Right.
Which is comforting. How many times have we talked about DC and sometimes, the right hand don't know what the right hand is doing. Books get solicited, and by the time issue 1 comes out, they know the book is being canceled at issue 4 or 5 or whatever it is.
Yep.
So again, it's good to see that DC is seeing a rare win here,
mm-hmm,
and the fact that they have a plan.
Let's put it this way: if this wasn't Scott Snyder and Jason Aaron doing the first 2 books out of the gate, they would not. I don't think you would have a 2-year guarantee on these.
Sure.
Books. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what helps. Is like the names is like, especially when you bring over Jason Aaron and he's like the big thing at Marvel there for a while. Come over and it's like, all right, now, if it doesn't work, we're just going to pull the rug out from under you in 6 months. No, it's like you got to give them. You don't want to have that bad blood with the new talent you're bringing over. So you got to give them a little leeway.
So DC again on the up, Marvel, interesting stuff. So it has been announced that upcoming here with issue 16 or 18, I'm not exactly sure, that J. Michael Straczynski is going to be wrapping up his Captain America run, which I've been enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
But he is going to be doing a new book, which right now is a series of 6 one-shots. Mm-hmm. Where it's pairing up strange and unusual characters in a team up. And those books, as it stands, are Captain America and Volstagg, Nick Fury and Fin Fang Foom, Hulk and Doctor Strange, which is maybe the most normal one of all of them.
Right.
Ghost Rider and Galactus.
That's a weird one.
Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus, which we've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Doom and Rocket Raccoon.
That's a weird one, but I think I might buy that one, Joe.
Right. Now, that's the thing. I've been enjoying J. Michael Straczynski's work. Allegedly, there's just 6 one-shots. It's supposed to lead to something bigger. Who knows what that could be. But this is interesting and unique enough for me to throw it on the list and pick these up,
Yeah, I'm just not sure if I'm just shocked that Straczynski didn't leave Captain America before they finished it. You know what I mean? That's the burying the lead, but I thought he would have walked away in a huff or a minute and a huff, but that was. Just it's okay whether the book goes on and somebody else takes over or he's done. But yeah, just one shots unless they're $9.99, I'm gonna pick them all up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're probably going to be like $5.99 books, I'm sure,
Probably.
That's the way these things sort of work. Now, also at Marvel, they had some big rollouts over the summer, some big new high prestige number ones. They had a Wolverine's Revenge book, and a Aliens vs. Avengers book, coming hot out of the gate with issue number ones. But now each of those books, respectively, are delayed until at least February 2025.
Okay.
Now, the common denominator in those two books is that they're both written by Jonathan Hickman.
Mm-hmm. So?
I'm just saying, if you were reading those books, I'm sorry. I've liked Hickman stuff before, not loved, but liked. These were two big high-profile things, and sometimes it's easy to blame an artist or whatever it is, but when it's both of his books are late, and they're both late to February, and they were both big summer rollouts, and they had like the big art teams with Greg Capullo and Asad Ribic on them, I don't know, maybe do one big summer rollout book, and then once the first one's done, do the second one.
Right. I really have nothing on this one. It was like I don't know if I was going to pick them up. Like I'm with you on Hickman. Other than that Secret Wars that he did, that was Doctor Doom led. I'm like, I could take them or leave them. So I don't know if I was picking these up at all. So
yeah, like I said, they were not books that I was getting myself. But they were high profile books, like I said. A lot of people I'm sure were looking forward to them. Just kind of PSA there, let folks know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna get more information about this at New York Comic Con. More on New York Comic Con when we get to New York Comic Con. But as we grow closer and closer to the imminence of a new Spawn movie coming out, there is more and more new Spawn comics coming out. We already have the Gunslinger Spawn by Jimmy Palmiotti that's coming out next month.
Right.
But 2025 has no less than 8 new Spawn titles that are going to be rolling out.
Right.
No Home Here, whatever that is. Spawn Dark Ages. Medieval Spawn. Something called Blood Letter. The Freak, which is like an ancillary, McFarlane character. Cultus Noctis, the Book of NYX. But 2 that are actually kind of interesting to me. One is going to be like a no look. We're picking it up. It's She Spawn, written by Gail Simone. I'm getting that, right?
I might try. I'm not a Spawn guy, but I might try it.
The other one is Spawn 77, which is a Spawn book that acts as though Todd's original concept design that he made for Spawn in 1977 is the Spawn that actually happened.
Okay. Yes. A what if or an Elseworld Spawn.
Yes. So again, it's an interesting take. Obviously with Todd re-upping his publishing thing, obviously he's not drawing a lot of these stuff and he's only writing half of them or less than half of them. The fact that Todd is doing a bunch to bulk up the Spawn universe, it makes me feel that maybe that movie might happen and maybe it'll be good.
You never know. Was Angela on that list?
No Angela.
Oh, okay. I wonder why.
I feel as though maybe She Spawn is taking the spot. Well, because Marvel owns Angela now.
Right. It's a joke, yeah.
Right.
Because Neil won that in the lawsuit, and then he sold it to Marvel.
Yes. Oh, boy.
Have contracts, people.
Yes, even if it's just written on a cocktail napkin, something, right? An email. But also, we're going to get more information on these at New York Comic Con. Again, more on New York Comic Con as it rolls out. But it pays to sign up. We say it all the time. If your favorite creator has a newsletter, a Substack, a blog spot, whatever other things that there are of these things out there, make sure to go sign up for them for your favorite creator. Because Jason Aaron gave a little bit more insight information on what he has coming up. So he's got a new Image book that's going to be rolling out with him and Mahmoud Asra, who he did the Conan books with.
Right.
It's a new book at Image, and it's, something that was teased, and he just said that they've been working on it for a long time. It's an idea that's been percolating in my head since I was a kid running around the woods of Alabama. And he also leans in, we had talked a couple weeks ago about IDW having the horror imprint.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jason Aaron's going to be doing an IDW horror thing as well. Obviously, he tiptoes around it a little bit. He says, once these secret comics emerge from the shadows, shivers will be sent down the spines, and the entire comic book industry will be talking about these IDW upcoming releases.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's already working with IDW for Ninja Turtles. I could see him doing something horror. He was the kind of what the Epitaphs from the Abyss was built on the back of, just the announcement of his name, just like you mentioned before. How if DC doesn't have Scott Snyder, to a lesser extent, Jason Aaron to a much bigger extent, guaranteed in on this new rollout of the Absolute books. And again, not taking anything away from Kelly Thompson as well, who's doing the Wonder Woman book, right?
Right.
But having those three heavy hitter creators as the writers of that rollout is definitely going to help. And I'm sure IDW brought the dump truck up and said, hey, horror,
Yep.
You like horror? What do you got? Let's do something. Now, I'm also going to mention, if you are going to New York Comic Con for that new Image book, both Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asra are going to be giving out ash cans of it. Ash cans are back. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Oh, I heard.
And hopefully, somebody I know who's going there could maybe get one for me.
Maybe.
And not get in trouble for getting it for me this time.
Yeah, I hope so.
He announced it on Sunday, and they're going to be available on Thursday. So let's cross our fingers.
Did he definitely say they're free, or? Because I don't remember reading it. I just was wondering. He might be selling them. You don't know.
I just had the email.
Right.
I went away from the email.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. The rest of the week, be sure to come and find me and Mahmoud at the show, as we'll both have copies of a limited edition full color ash can previewing the first issue. The ash can features huge chunk of the debut issue, so on and so forth. And again, it says that they will have copies. Doesn't say that they're free, but doesn't say that they're not free.
That's right, because I believe you said giving away. So I don't know. Maybe they're selling them. You don't know,
I don't know. I'm good for it.
Oh, I know, but I don't want to give the listeners wrong information. Then they get there and it's like, hey, Joe and Todd said they're free. And then we get, ostracized.
And then he's like, I don't know who that is.
Oh, no, he knows us. No, wait, that's a different creator who knows us. I'm sorry. But anyway.
But again, that's the tease of the stuff that's going to be coming at New York this weekend. Again, as mentioned, New York Comic Con is this weekend. Now, listen, sure, there's a Dallas Fan Festival, which is part of the Fan Expo things in Dallas. Todd, I'm not sure if you knew this, but it's kind of light, the number of people that are going to be there.
I can't imagine why.
Because everyone's going to be at New York this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And honest to God, looking at everything that's being teased is coming out and teased is being announced, and all the creators that are going to be there, and the fact that it's New York City, man. New York City rocks, right?
Yep.
I'm not afraid of no New York City. Like some people.
I'm not afraid. I just don't like driving there.
I didn't say you. There's other people that are afraid, but they're like, I don't know. They live in like Minnesota and Colorado or Cleveland and whatever. Right. But I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, oh, this seems like this feels like the first time in a long time that New York is like, we're stepping things up. We're bringing the gun. We're bringing the big game. We're gonna knock everyone's socks off, right?
I think it honestly has to do with the fact that like the pandemic hamstrung them there for a minute, and then they were kind of backing off after that.
Right.
And it kind of hurt. Like you could still get tickets for certain days last year or the year before. So they're like, we need to sell out. You know what I mean? And we need to go big. So I think they kind of pushed to have people make announcements at this one this year.
And I know you're going, what, the whole weekend?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Joe.
Oh, boy. Look at you. High roller.
As long as nothing, crazy happens.
No emergencies.
Right. I should be there all 4 days with my good buddy, the definitive Colonel Sanders artist, Tom Duretic. I'll be at his table or on my rented Jazzy from the Javits Center. Tooling around. I was talking to somebody today. I said I might live stream a little driving from the show floor on one if I get one. But yeah, I should be there. I talked to DJ this week, our good buddy DJ. Then I was thinking about heading over because it's the last week or the second to last week for that Mike Mignola art exhibit near the place.
Oh, okay.
So if I could get some free time away from the show, I might. And he told me it's not like how far away it is from the actual Javits Center. So I might go over and take a look at that stuff because we were talking and he said like the picture, like the art, the flat art online where they're just showing the scans don't do it justice. Like he showed me a picture of it. And you can actually see like the painted brush strokes from the picture, if that makes any sense. So I'm like, I joke that Mike Mignola and this and that. He's a great artist. I love original art and would love to go check it out. You know what I mean? And he's there. Mignola's there Saturday signing books of the art, like a hardcover sketchbook with all the art from the walls in there. And I asked DJ if he wanted one. He's like, I got one already. And I was like, is this an exclusive one? This only Saturday? He's like, no. So I was like, that'd be cool. Maybe to go meet Mike Mignola for a bit. You know what I mean? But and I'll be doing whatever I can on the floor. I'm deciding whether or not if a couple celebrities want Mark photos with me. I have to decide that yet. We'll see if they do. Maybe they'll get posted up. But my thing is, I think I might put my adventures behind a paywall this year and only post in the Discord, Joe.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's a perfect way to tell people to go sign up for the Discord. By signing up for the Patreon at Soon to Be Named Network, or if you are a Patreon member and you haven't come to the Discord yet, let that be the thing that brings you to the Discord to see Todd's adventures. I think you said that last year too, and I think you still ended up posting most of them online anyway.
You know what? We'll see. We'll have to see what I do. I may put the more risque stuff behind the paywall. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. You harassing people dressed as Vampirella.
Among other things that they're dressed as. I don't, pigeonhole in only Vampirella costumes.
Now, did you see Jimmy Pistol tweet out today about the Creature Commandos thing that's going to be there?
No, I didn't see that today.
Okay. So apparently there's going to be a Creature Commandos Belle Reeve experience at the DC booth.
But I don't think there's a DC booth. It must be somewhere then. I'll have to look that up.
And again, let me look up Jimmy Pistol. I have to actually put his real name in.
Right.
I can't go by code names. I thought
you were saying Jimmy Palmiotti, by the way. I thought you had me confused.
No. It says, those of you attending New York, your assignment is to report to Belle Reeve. Your new prison inmates will be there to greet you, and if you step out of line, you'll have to answer to the Creature Commandos. Follow protocol, and you'll be rewarded with exclusive gear. So I don't know if that's going to be at a DC booth, a DC Studios booth, but it's just being called the Belle Reeve Experience.
Right. I'll say this because I don't know if you remember a few shows ago, I had my picture taken at Star Labs.
Yes.
And I wore the fat guy in a little lab coat bit. And they gave us like because that was for the last season of Titans. that they were doing.
Gotcha.
And I ended up getting free pins and stuff. So there might be a spot on the floor where they have the Belle Reve experience. But now that I know that, Joe, that is my first stop after I get settled, is to go find that Belle Reve thing, because I want to see what they're giving away. You know what I mean?
Get yourself a Diet Pepsi, get yourself a bagel.
No joke aside, that's where Tom wants to go as soon as we hit the thing. He's like, because we're leaving early in the morning. He's like, we'll get food when we get in. He's like, do you mind if we go to that bagel place? And I'm like, you know what? I'll throw myself on that bagel grenade for you, Tom. So, but yeah, I'll check that out with my cream cheese stained fingers, and hope Jimmy Pistol's there. I'll say hi.
Oh boy. I'm not even going to will it into existence. I'm going to say this is one of the first times in a long time. I'm sad that I'm not going to New York Comic Con. It looks and sounds like it's going to be an awesome time, not just because Todd's going to be there. And as Todd mentioned, there's going to be fans and listeners of the show, people who have shows on the network and so forth. Family and friends are going to be there. So if you see Todd, or if Todd knows you're going to be there, if you're in communique with myself or him, let someone know, and we'll try to hook you up with Todd.
Yes.
So you can get so I can enjoy you getting a Mark picture with him. Is that how that would work?
There you go. So you can enjoy them enjoying getting a Mark photo with me.
That's right.
But I'll say this honestly, I'm not going to be hard to find. I'm wearing the Todd uniform. I'll have the Johnny Cash bag. I'll be near Tom Durenick's table at some point. If you're at the show, come find me. I'm not the bad person everybody makes me out to be. I'll say hi.
I'm gonna write myself a note here.
I think I'm loved by everybody, Joe.
Huh?
What?
Anyway, the links to the conventions, whether you're going to be in the Dallas area or you're coming out to New York Comic Con. But if you're coming out to New York Comic Con, you already know. It'll be in the show notes with the episode, along with information about soon-to-be-named network at soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. Anytime any of the shows in the network go live, of course, you could find them at their own individual websites. You could find them through the podcatcher of your choice. You could find them at the one-stop shop for all the shows in the soon-to-be-named network, which is soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. And those shows include this show that you're listening to right now, Longbox Heroes After Dark, Puzzle Warriors 3, Profane Arguments, At Odds with Wrestling, Final Wrestling Place, We Need Wrestling, Porch Talk, Wings on Wings, which is reaching its end. Reach out to the crew of how you can get their exclusive hot sauce when that goes available.
I might buy some and bag and board that, Joe.
Ooh, there you go. Send it out to be CG Seed.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I forgot to mention it when I saw DJ and Michelle up at Soon to Be Named Network North this past weekend. I'm not a hot sauce guy. Even the grease that's left over from the pepperoni when you pick it off a pizza is too spicy for me. But my wife loves hot stuff, so I'm going to get that for her.
Right.
She'll enjoy that. And then anytime anybody from the soon-to-be-named network shows go on other shows, and they let me know, you could find out about it on soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. And Todd, you'll be proud of me. I turned down an appearance on another show this week.
Hold on. Let's see. Today is October 15th, 2024 as we record. Yes. I'm going to make that a soon-to-be-named network holiday. You know what I mean? Because that is just crazy. Man walks on water, Joe turns down a podcast appearance.
It doesn't happen very often, but it did.
What happened? Did you have 3 other podcasts that day?
Yes, that's what it is. 3 other podcasts that day. So you can check out some of our friends and the stuff that they're up to in and around the internet. You can go check out our friend Mike Sterling's blog over at progressiveruin.com. You can go check out our friend Kevin's blog over at helionsteam.com. You can go check out Rick Williams' The Chop Shop at freekaratechops.storeenvy.com. He's got these cool resin and figures and pins and stickers of all these cool sci-fi, fantasy, wrestling themed stuff. Go get Jason Sandberg's Jupiter, still through his Indiegogo. You can still pick it up with all the accoutrements. You could pick up Chris Runt's Battle Monsters through his site at fortressofcomicnews.com. Our friend Davey of the band Cave People is doing his own self-published comics. You can check those out at cavedomaincomics.com. Mentioned it last week, mentioned it again. He's teasing art for a new project that he's rolling out in 2025. I'll be getting that as soon as it comes out. You can also, if you do not have a comic book store in your area, or you do not have a good comic book store in your area, let our store be your store. Comics on the Green. You can find out when all the final order cutoff dates are for the latest and greatest books. I feel bad with the way that we record, and I really have been making attempting to make a more concerted effort, but then being stymied by the issues that we're having with the website, because mostly the final order cutoff dates are Monday. Mm-hmm. And we record on a Tuesday.
Right, so you'd have to do it the week before to give some heads up.
Like if I knew last week that this past Monday was the final order cutoff date for Jason Aaron's Absolute Superman, I would have mentioned it then.
Right.
I'm going to make a more concerted effort to be on top of those sort of things. I say it every once in a while, but this time I mean it.
That's right. This promise you won't break.
Right. It's less of a promise that I'm breaking, and it's more I'm forgetful.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I forgive you, Joe.
Thank you. You could sign up for their mail order subscription service, get your books mailed to you weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And if you do, there's a chance you can get a sketch on the package from our good friend Becky, who we're going to turn things over to now for My Walk Down Lois Lane.
Welcome back. Recently, I spent amount of money on some vintage 40s and 50s romance comics. I figured if I talk about one of them today, I can probably use it as a tax write-off. If anyone from the IRS is listening, I'm just joking. I'm joking because I don't pay my taxes. Let's talk about a story called They Call Me Tramp from a comic called Dear Lonely Hearts. This is issue number 4 from 1954. This is going to be a dark episode, but it is spooky season, so let's dive in. We start with Louise and her boyfriend Jim. Jim is a lawyer and doesn't want to get married yet because he doesn't make a lot of money, but Louise is madly in love with him and wants to help his career by acting like a fool in front of men. Those are the comics words, not mine. Jim is warning Louise she's getting a reputation by hanging out with the people in his Rolodex before he goes back to the office. As he walks away, she's stopped by a political boss named Fenton Bliss. Fenton tells her he knows of her boyfriend and might have an interesting proposition for him, but he would like to talk to Louise about it first. We can all see where this is going, but Louise thinks it's a legit job opportunity and agrees to meet up. A couple of hours later, while she's at home, Fenton shows up at her apartment and she invites him in. She offers to make him a drink, but he tells her it's impolite for her to make a drink in her own home. She should sit down and he will do it. He brings her a drink and insists she downs it immediately. Louise doesn't actually want to drink, but since it's for Jim's sake, she finishes it only to start feeling dizzy. Fenton uses this opportunity to tell Louise that he will scratch Jim's back if she scratches his, and before Louise can understand what's happening, Fenton kisses her. She pushes him away and tells him she's taken, but afraid to tell him to go kick rocks because of Jim's job, so she insists she must go and fix her hair. While combing her hair, Louise believes she has set firm boundaries with Fenton, and now they can get down to business talking about her boyfriend, but Fenton has other plans. He follows her into the bedroom and tells her he knows she's playing games just to lure him in. Louise tells him to get out. She's with Jim, she's not interested, and Fenton tells her he knows that she's a tramp because of her reputation, and he will not be refused. As he grabs her and goes for another kiss, he hears Jim telling Fenton to let her go. The two men argue, with Jim throwing Fenton out, and Fenton swearing he will blackball and ruin Jim for this. Louise breaks down crying and apologizes, and Jim said that he heard the whole thing. He loves her, even if she takes these dangerous chances, and they should probably just get married before something else happens. The issue ends with her agreeing and the couple embracing. So this story is reprinted in the IDW hardcover called Weird Love. There are many stories in there, and I recommend it if you're a fan of out-of-the-box or just old comics. When Simon and Kirby invented romance comics in 1947, this is what they were like. Cautionary tales for women that covered many dark subjects, and although they weren't really based on true stories, they did hit close to home for many. When most of you think about romance comics, I bet you think about the 1960s campy, over-the-top, crying girls on the cover, and that's what they became after Dr. Wortham targeted comics as a reason for misbehaviors. This caused the Seduction of the Innocent trial that had Congress condemning the industry for its horror and violence and shutting down many small comic companies. These are the same types of higher-ups that were writing into Betty Page, telling her that they loved her pinup work, and then were publicly calling her out in the trials. As we all know, this led to the Comics Code being born and put a lot of small companies out of business, which led to the birth of Super Comics and then Skywold Publications. Skywold are my absolute favorite comic company that I have to tell you about sometime. Tune in next week for something else more lighthearted.
Thank you very much, Becky. I love hearing about these dark and distressing 40s and 50s romance comics, and I use romance loosely.
Mm-hmm.
They feel as though more cautionary tales to try to, and again, mostly get women to get on the straight and narrow. And again, it is what it is. It was a different time, and you certainly can judge. And it's interesting to hear that the romance comics, these particular romance comics as they were then, were kind of what was lumped in as well with the Frederick Wortham Seduction of the Innocent stuff as well. You just assume it was all like the horror stuff, right?
Right. And I got a little sidetracked because I was taking notes on what not to do as a suitor, and I got a lot of good tips. Don't push your way into another man's bedroom with his wife. Got it. Okay. So I wrote that down, but I'm with you because I found that because it was always the horror comics for me that kind of did it with them. They were like any of it, like even the superhero stuff, because, it was the whole thing of like all kids read comics at that time. So juvenile delinquents read comics. It was that whole thing was, if kids in juvenile detention chewed bubblegum, does that mean bubblegum gets them in? It was like a whole false equivalent, you know what I mean? So yeah, I just find it very fascinating that romance comics got lumped in also. But
yeah, it's just very interesting to see,
Right. Always informative and educational. So.
Yes. Next week, back to more spooky stuff. We promise.
Good.
So, hey, let's get into what we read from this past week. Todd, where would you like to begin?
I'm going to start with the book we were both looking forward to most, which was Absolute Batman by Scott Snyder and art by Nick Dragotta. Obviously, this is, you don't want to call it an Elseworlds Batman, but it is not the Batman we know, because this young, we get the origin kinda of how Bruce Wayne becomes Batman in this universe. And we also start out meeting Alfred in this, who obviously Alfred is not his butler in this, but I would say maybe some sort of agent, and he comes back to Gotham. And there's a whole bit I kind of like with him where he has a mission to find the party animals, which is this group that is just wreaking havoc upon Gotham, but they also tell him, and these are nameless people, telling him you also have the mission to watch them, don't interact with them, but there's somebody else on the scene who basically is obviously Batman, and that person you can end up, getting involved with. And then we see, like a bit of with Bruce and how he's training, and he's training at like Croc's gym. I wonder whose gym that could be, to tell you the truth. And Bruce isn't this big rich billionaire kind of a deal, but he does have the thickest thighs in the county, I'll tell you that much. And we get to see the party animals attack like the city hall, and he goes and Batman does his business and gets a run in with Alfred because he tells him to stop him. And maybe Batman, he doesn't kill, but he's very, very brutal in this. So Alfred ends up doing his due diligence, and kind of we get even more into the background of maybe, you know, it wasn't Crime Alley, but it was somewhere else that does his origin. And maybe, you know, it's not exactly, you know, both with the parents dying the same way. And I don't know how to put it. It's very cool. I do like the bits because Bruce is where kind of what we learn is fascinated with bats and how the look of the book, like, I thought this was a great read, but I thought mostly the visual of this was fantastic, where he has the long arms on his cape and stuff, and he walks kind of like the way a bat does on its wings. And I thought the axe and the chest plate was going to be stupid, but I thought that was really cool, even though the scene where he attacks the guy's hand with it is straight out of Book of Eli. But good movie. I literally had a blast with this, and how, like, there's a bit with Alfred's motorcycle that turns out, but it looks, this book, I really like the story, but it's a strange that I say this. I love the art more than I actually did the story, but they're both great. And this was my test run. I'm definitely getting, you know, more absolute Batman, at least.
Yes. Off mic, we've talked about how grumpy Todd has been and he hates everything.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I kid because I love. But so again, you covered like the broad strokes of the book, the plot of the first issue, and everything like that. So Batman is a character that everybody knows, and I think it's very easy to write a Batman story. I am not skilled by any stretch of the imagination, but I could probably write a serviceable, the book is late, fill-in issue Batman story, right?
Right.
You know, the beginning, it's going to set up change, and everything's going to be resolved by the end of it, and it's going to feel like a Batman book. Because Batman's been around long enough. I've read Batman books. You've read Batman books. Everyone's got a handle on Batman, right?
Right.
So then you get a book like this, with the pitch of this, where it's an alternative take on Batman. And we're not talking about Elseworlds where it's just like, what if Batman was Superman? Or what if Batman was a vampire? Or what if Batman was Green Lantern? Which is like very easy an elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
This is, we're going to take the core mechanics of Batman and we're going to tweak them. And you run into things where you will get someone who gets on a project like this and tweaks it so much that it's no longer recognizable as Batman. I had a pitch for a vigilante character that is nothing like Batman, but I got to write Batman, so I'm just going to slap Batman on this thing that doesn't fit. Or you get the person that comes on and is an alternate take on Batman, and the only thing they do is like change like one thing. Right?
Right.
This book is neither of those. I think this book hits the balance in a way that works. You get little things, and again, I don't feel bad about spoiler and stuff too much about this. You know, you get the bit that Alfred's not the butler, but he's, you know, and that's one of those things that has been retrofitted onto Alfred over the last, like, let's say 20 or so years, that he was in special forces and then he's got all these secret skills and everything else. And like, how do you think like Bruce knows how to do this or help people and these sort of things? It's because Alfred. So they just took that and they turned that up just a little bit, right?
Right. While adding that they don't know each other at all.
Right. And that they have an adversarial relationship. So there's your other little tweak. Then you have the bit where Batman's origin is so much considered in regards to his parents being killed.
Right.
Not just his parent being killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you also have the thing where it's very low tech, it's very lo-fi, he doesn't have all the money, he doesn't have anything like that, but he's still a very competent and skilled fighter in regards to taking down this, party animal gang, right?
Yep.
The thing that I like the most is that they've established that Bruce Wayne growing up and into this period of his life grew up with and friends with the people who, in our mindset, are the villains.
Mhm.
Because you get that one picture of them all together, and it's very clear to figure out who's who in that picture.
Right.
And there was just enough tweaks that it's different enough, it's unique enough, and it feels like an interesting idea and take on a way, but it feels enough like a Batman book that I'm like, I don't know what this is, or that it's far away that this doesn't feel like Batman, because it definitely feels like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly hope, with the way that DC has been promoting and pushing this stuff, I don't watch a lot of TV, but the little bit of TV that I watch on Wednesday nights, for the last 2 weeks, I've been seeing ads for DC Comics.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Now, granted, it's DC, Warner, whatever synergy, and a lot of these books, there's heavy AEW promotion as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if corporate synergy is going to mix my two hobbies, comic books and wrestling, I think I'm okay with corporate synergy, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a commercial for the last 2 weeks. There's been a commercial for those like digest things that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Those $10 things. And then there's an in-show ad read for whatever the new DC book that week is.
Really?
Yes.
Because I don't watch that stuff. That's fascinating.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago it was All In, and this week it was Absolute. Like, this past week it was Absolute Batman. Like, it's in ring. It's like somebody's coming to the ring. The commentator is like, it's Wednesday. You know what that means? Go to your comic book store. Absolute Batman by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta is out. It's a brand new bold take on Batman, so on and so forth, right? And find out the secret. It's Todd.
So this is on that little fake fighting show that they do?
Come on now. Don't make me call you Chris.
Okay. No, listen. We all know my adversarial situation with with what you guys watch.
Sports entertainment, yes.
Right. This is the coolest thing. I will give them anything that gets comics to more of the masses. And now, granted, a lot of wrestling fans there's crossover. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to be on national TV in any way, shape, or form, mm-hmm. And I'm all for that. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And I was talking at the shop like a week or two ago, where somebody was like, "Oh, this, All In," and then they were mentioning that there was stuff on the whatever show is on Wednesday night,
Dynamite, AEW Dynamite.
Right. Because I know the other one's Rampage. I saw two of them at one time. But it was funny because I was like, yeah, like 4 weeks ago, me and my friend who do the podcast, Joe, are joking. It's like, you love, comic, you love wrestling, and they have pay-per-views called All In, and now DC's naming their, new thing All In. Oh, that's just so funny. And I was like, and even though AEW was running ads in comics at that point, it's like, how did we never put all this together, Joe? This is the Del Rusk of wrestling and comic books.
But I'm just glad it's happening at a time when I can enjoy it,
That's right. And I can enjoy you enjoying it, just so.
Thank you. So the other book that we're both going to talk about would be Action Comics 1070. At least for the time being, at least for the next 3 months, Action Comics is back to its roots as a weekly comic. Written by Mark Waid, the main story, with art by Clayton Henry. Currently, the backup second feature is a Supergirl story by Mariko Tamaki and art by Skylar Partridge. This definitely feels outside of whatever the current Superman continuity is, which is cool by me. It's a Phantom Zone story, which is cool by me. The art is beautiful. I love Mark Waid getting to play with Superman. I was intrigued by what was going on with the Supergirl story. Now, I know there was a big Tom King Supergirl story that my ignorance, I did not read, but that is going to be the basis of the Supergirl movie that's coming out in like 2 years.
Right.
One would think that this backup feature, second feature, is in line with that, so that when the movie comes out, they have more of that version of Supergirl in the comics.
Right.
And have you ever seen that meme where the person The only other movie they've ever watched was Boss Baby, and then they watch another movie, and they go, I'm getting real Boss Baby vibes from this movie.
Okay, not really, but okay.
Okay, so that's a meme. I watched The Substance this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
And if you've seen The Substance, the Phantom Zone criminal that escapes
right
from the Phantom Zone, I'm getting real Substance vibes from that criminal.
Gotcha. That was what, like, right out of the gate, the three Kryptonians coming out of the Phantom Zone projector, and the way it was visualized was creepy, fascinating, and just like so interesting. And like what they're yelling, like we don't find out what it is, but Superman, we do later on. But what Superman's like, you hear what they're yelling, right, Kara? And he's just like, yeah. It's like, so this isn't good. They're like, and it all works out in a classic like Mark Waid Superman story, and him like fighting as hard as he can to save people, and even like going, well, I need to go into the Phantom Zone to figure out what's going on. This is all wrong. And I like Lois taking him off on the side, and they have that heartfelt conversation. And then that last panel of maybe how things are going to go completely wrong. I was just happy to see Mark Waid writing Superman again. And I'll read him anytime he does Superman, because he's somebody who really understands the character.
Right. And we get little bits. You mentioned the bit with Lois and Clark. We get a bit early in the book with Clark and Jimmy. And I think one of the things that Mark Waid gets the most about Superman is his relationships with other people, which a lot of people, I think, through the years either ignore because it's tough or get wrong because it's tough. I mentioned before, I could write a Batman story that is passable. I don't think I could write a Superman story that's passable.
Gotcha. I'll say this, as you talked about the Substance, though, you're getting Substance vibes.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to watch that, but I don't think it's good for my delicate sensibilities.
Hey, Todd, you know what? I'm going to do you a favor. It's a good movie. You're not allowed to watch it.
Okay, good. Because if we didn't have the podcast today, I was invited with DJ and Brett to see a Christmas movie today, and you know how much I love Christmas stuff.
A Christmas movie.
Yes, it was like the clown that answers Christmas wishes or something. I don't know.
Oh, sure.
So his name is Art, maybe?
Yes.
So I was gonna go see that, but I had to do this podcast. So like I've said, and this has been the name of an episode before, I'll watch that on Wikipedia. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So I do. I like to read the plots of horror movies that I will never watch. So.
Oh, my goodness. I'm making a more concerted effort to try to watch stuff that I hear people talking about as good, and I did so with The Substance this past weekend. Again, getting back to comics. If you want to read an unencumbered Superman book, granted it comes out weekly, so you're going to have to buy it every week. If you want to read an unencumbered good Superman story, it's off to a great start.
I would wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
And are you making a concerted effort to make more concerted efforts?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say, but go ahead.
So you, Todd, wanted to talk about Fantastic Four number 26, a book I did not read.
Right. It's just a one-shot, kind of and as Becky aforementioned, it's spooky season, so it's that's the kind of theme. It's written by Ryan North with art by Ivan Forelli. And what I like about this is it's, as we talked about the Straczynski books, team ups that you're not like seeing. Like you usually see Ben and Johnny, and you see Reed and Sue and the four all together. Well, this is like around Halloween, and Reed and Johnny get left behind while the rest of the family's off trick-or-treating and stuff like that. And Reed is putting together a thing. He's like, I don't understand magic, but I've built a magic detector from certain things. That way, because Doom is Sorcerer Supreme now. And if he comes back, it'll be. But it's going off in this farmhouse that they're living in. There's something underground. And Reed's like, hey, when Sue gets back, we'll just have her use her invisibility powers and we'll figure out what it is. And then the hijinks ensue, where Reed is good because he's scientific, but Johnny's like spur of the moment kind of guy. So he's saying all the right things to make Reed investigate. So they dig a hole in the basement and they let something loose, and they have to go back and fix it. And because there was something filling this void to another world, anything that died in this area, the ghosts were there. So there's like ghosts of dinosaurs, butterflies, everything. Like, we have to stop this. But the only problem is we have to keep the portal. We have to keep feeding stuff into the portal so nothing will come out of the portal. But nothing is infinite. So they end up, Johnny knows about this stupid like TLZ kind of like thing where they're talking about this bleeding skull in Europe that just constantly bleeds blood, and a cult's going to use it to destroy the magic world. So they go on an adventure because their whole plan is to bury this infinite bleeding skull in the ground so the blood will constantly drain into the portal and nothing will come out. And it's them going off to fight cultists and get it. And Reed is doing like the scientific thing, trying to reason with cultists while Johnny's trying to do this. And it's absolutely hysterical. And obviously when it ends, because it's like one story, the family coming back and the costumes that they've all chosen. So we get a bit of like the family, you know, in costumes, just Johnny and Reed trying to explain it to them. And them are like, we're never leaving the two of you alone together. And I'm like, this was so fun because it was different. And as you say, we could probably write a Batman story. A Superman is much harder. But to me, a Reed Richards story would be impossible for me or you to write because it's a character we could probably never wrap our heads around. It was just so fun because I understand Johnny more. I could probably write a Johnny story. But I highly recommend it. If you just want some Fantastic Four stuff, a one-shot, just a quick read, spooky Halloween stuff, go try this out. This was a blast.
The solicitation text that's on Marvel's website definitely lends credence to a lot of the silliness and the nonsense that this issue gets up to. And you were saying something, Chip Zdarsky had some sort of remarks about this as well?
He was talking about the writer, Ryan North. And right. Now I have to take a serious moment here because he's like, he did a video and he put it on X. You call it Twitter, I call it X. He goes, listen, we've had a lot of fun around here, but you know, I went to the summit at Marvel and FF was there, and you know, Ryan North was there, and we were discussing, and you know, I don't want to say we have to kick him off the book, you know, because I don't do that to people. I don't do that. But while he was at the summit, we were talking about Namor the Submariner, and he called him Prince Namor. And I was like, no, it's Namor. He's like, it's Namor. And he's like, I'm sorry, you can't write this book anymore. You're out of here. And he did like this super serious video. And I was crying because it's the whole thing of him like saying he must be kicked off the book. And then you find out it's because he pronounces it Namor. I was crying. And I was like, this book flies so much under the radar, and I will say this: Fantastic Four is a bit of an uneven book. It's not why I don't talk about it a lot, but when it hits like this one shot, it's fine, even though the writer says Prince Namor.
I say Namor.
Yeah. The Submariner.
The Submariner. I remember that back in the day.
Right. Is it Magneto better. Or Magneto?
Yeah.
Dark
Cartoon
Side or Dark Seed?
Wow, don't get me started on that one.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, that definitely sounds like a fun issue if you're looking for something Halloween related for sure. So that's what we read from this past week. Let's get into what we're looking forward to coming out this week. If you head over to longboxheroes.com, type it in. Don't click a link through Twitter for it, even though it's links for Twitter. I think that's where the problem is. Every Tuesday around noon Eastern time, we put up a link for the poll post, which is a link to all the books that are coming out this week. Whether you get your books in print, whether you get them digitally, whether you get them sent to your home, however it is, you get your books. Be forewarned, be forearmed, know what's coming out this week. Todd and I attempt to guess what the other is most looking forward to coming out this week. We are currently tied, knotted up at 33 correct guesses apiece, and whenever we're tied up, I always say that could be 0-0 or 100-100. It doesn't matter. We're tied.
Right. and I'm looking over your list. You have pretty much the same list as I do. Is the book you're looking forward to most? God, I'm just gonna swing away, as the kids say. Is it Where Monsters Lie Cul-de-sac #1?
It is not, Todd.
Ah, okay.
So before I tell you what my book is, I'm going to guess that the book that you're most looking forward to coming out this week is Nightwing #118.
It is Nightwing 118.
Because Nightwing 118 is the book I'm most looking forward to coming out this week as well.
Right. Another week where loyalties are tested, Joe. Right,
because there's 2 Kyle Starks books out this week. You know, obviously the continuation of the Barfly book, which I don't know if you saw. Patton Oswalt was on Jimmy Kimmel last night plugging the book.
Right.
You know, we're in a golden age of comic books being mentioned on like network TV and stuff, right?
Yep.
And mentioning Kyle Starks by name, that's really super cool. As you mentioned, Where Monsters Lie, Cul-de-sac, the sequel to the original Where Monsters Lie. But we have been on board with this run on Nightwing since the beginning of the pandemic, Todd. That's where this book started. It actually started Tom Taylor came on this book right before the pandemic hit.
Right. I may have gotten a Nightwing slid out the back door during the pandemic.
Yeah. Over 4 years ago. And it was able to keep its momentum. It was able to keep its quality and everything else like that. And this is his finale to the book.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to see what he has in store for it. And we talked before, there's a new writer, this book was delayed. So 119 with the new writer comes out next week. So they're right on top of each other, but it's going to be a bittersweet swan song, as I had said about wrestling stuff this weekend. While it may be a goodbye, I don't feel it's going to be a goodbye forever. I definitely feel that Tom Taylor will probably revisit these characters. Nightwing is one of my top tier characters, somebody that I'm always going to give a try to whenever there's a new run or a new creator. And sadly, we joked before of like, write a Batman story, write a this, write a that. Nightwing is a tougher character to write than most would think. And to get him right and to have it be good and to still have those ties to Batman that it needs to have and still have it stand on its own as its own thing that could exist in a world without Batman. There's a lot of moving parts to Nightwing, and for the better part of 4.5 years, Tom Taylor has knocked it out of the park.
Right.
I can't, of however many issues this run has been, I think we've probably talked about 80 to 85% of the issues of this run on this show. Probably.
Yeah. And I'll say this, Tom Taylor's taken over Detective, so I don't see that this is definitely not the last. Unless they kill him off in this last issue.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson will be around at some point in Detective. You know what I mean?
They rehired Dan DiDio and gave him one wish.
Oh, my goodness. I will say this. I am now playing a game every week on Longbox Heroes. Could we or could we not write a story with that character?
I think it just came up because we had Batman and Superman. We talked about them.
And then Reed Richards and Johnny Storm. But I'm going to have a jingle issued. Can Joe write the story? Yeah.
So, and again, I will say, I am not a comic book writer. The comic book story that I would write would be bad to serviceable. But, if it was the late 70s, early 80s, and they needed a book in a pinch, they ain't throwing mine out, is all I'm saying.
Right. I have 2 stories in me, and that's it. One is a Doctor Doom and a Sabretooth story.
Okay. Title
pending. To the victors go the spoils.
Oh, there you go.
See, you like that? And then I have, and they won't do it. It's a DC Marvel crossover. It's Batman and Wolverine, but in their altered ego, and it's called Matches and Patches.
Well,
sign me up, DC Marvel.
If they ever print the Amalgam Omnibus and it sells out, and then Marvel and DC decide to work together again. If only you had an artist that could whip up some rough draft of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know why you're not making your own fan comic of that.
I've tried to get him to do dumb things, but he won't listen to me. Like, I had a mashup where, you remember the Porgs from Star Wars?
Yes.
And I was going to get Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation as a Borg. And I was like, just mash them together and draw Locutus of Porg. And he's like, that's really funny. And I'm like, just draw it and put out. You don't have to give me credit. And he won't do it. He won't do. And the other one was that I had and I want him to draw was the bear from the Jungle Book, but dressed as Ted Cord. And he was Baloo Beetle. And I'm like, this is gold I'm giving you for free, and he won't do it.
It's almost as though he's responsible and wants ideas that aren't going to get him drummed out of the business.
But these are things that will bring traffic to your site as dumb little things. I'm not saying draw them and sell them, but like, oh, I came up with this idea, Baloo Beetle, and it's, Baloo dressed as, in the Beetle costume. Come on, like that wouldn't get some likes. I don't know. Go get yourself a meal or something afterwards.
All right. So while you're over at longboxheroes.com, of course, be sure to check out past episodes of this show, past episodes of Longbox Heroes After Dark, and the current ongoing Todd and Joe Have Issues as we are rereading all of Gail Simone's Secret Six from the very beginnings, back in the Villains United days and the Birds of Prey crossovers and everything here. Now, this issue that we were talking about this week, issue 24, it's Gail, it's Jim Calafiore. It's a really good issue. I don't know why or remember why it's a Western. Not that I'm complaining, but at least the previous issue and the next issue, I don't recall there being a setup to explain why this is happening.
Why? I have no proof of this whatsoever. I feel like there was an Elseworlds month.
Mm-hmm.
And they wrote the story, and it was like, I'll print it anyway. And they never did the Elseworlds month, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's a file story. Like, let's use it.
Now, I think they play with some of the dialogue a little bit. And again, it's one of these things where this is a storyline that we read, you and I read some 10 plus years ago when it was first coming out. So it may not be as fresh in our memory. And it's one of those things as we read it, like those, it gets scratched a bit, like your 80s to 90s sports knowledge in some people.
Right.
But they threw some dialogue in here that makes me believe that this is somehow involved or was supposed to involve, or when we get to the revelation on this, that it was supposed to involve the Mad Hatter.
Okay.
Who's their overarching nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it's a really good issue. All the characterization that you love of these characters is there. It's yet another issue that's primarily focused on Deadshot. We learn how he got his nickname, and it's not the way that you think it would be.
No.
We get the reintroduction of Junior, and Junior's relationship with Ragdoll is explored in even more horrific ways than you can imagine.
Right, but at least Ragdoll's dealing with children a lot.
Yes, also a positive thing that should happen. And we get a Deathstroke appearance. Maybe we get some cultural appropriation out of Bane. We get all the characters. It's a really good issue, but I don't remember why or understand why it's a Western. But I like Westerns. I like Secret Six mashed up together. I'm enjoying this, but I don't know why I have it.
I do too, but I don't think it's ever mentioned. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's a throwaway story. And if I can manage to find Gail on the floor of New York Comic Con because she doesn't have a table, I'm going to corner her and ask her.
There you go. Well, I wouldn't corner her. I would maybe approach her from afar, yell, and then say, I'll be right there.
That is true. That is true.
Don't corner anyone on the convention floor. And that's not just Todd, but that's everyone.
Right.
So this week's Have Issues is kind of short because there's not was there any bits that you wanted to talk about out of the issue?
No, I mean, I like the issue, but I feel it was an Elseworld story, to tell you the truth. Because, spoiler alert, the Secret Six die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say about the issue because it left me confused. But otherwise, there's no bits in it that jump out to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you seen, and again, we're on so many tangents this week, but have you seen these mashups that they do with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups now?
No, what do you mean? Maybe I have, but if you explain it to me.
Where they put like, oh, you can get one where it's like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, but it has like the Reese's Puffs candy in them, or the potato chips, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
So for Christmas, they announced one where it's a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup that's stuffed with a sugar cookie.
I don't like that.
Now, see, I like sugar cookies. I love Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I don't know if I would like that, though. I'm going to try it.
See,
I don't know how it happened or why it's happening, but I'm going to try it, and I might like it.
I'll try just about any candy, but the whole idea of a sugar cookie inside a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup kind of gives me diabetic fits, but also, like, would I try it? Yes. You know what I mean? So, do we have to do a live taste test thing? Because I will. I will.
There is a chance I'm going to Hershey this weekend. If they have them there, I'll get one, and I'll make sure to get it to you, and we'll do the live taste test on the air. But I think it's one of those things where, like, it's currently in select markets, and it'll be wide our podunk towns by Christmas.
Gotcha. I still... Ooh, you just reminded me. I'm going to New York.
Yeah. They have you could get the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup off Times Square.
I could do the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup opportunity. That might be, you know what? I may make a concerted effort.
There you go.
See, callback. To go off the floor, go get a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, and at the same time see the Mike Mignola exhibit. You know what I mean? Then walking all around New York, I could burn off that Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
You'd have to walk home, I think.
That is true. I'd probably have to walk home going west, Joe. Yes. So, be like when I come back around and swim twice, I'll be good.
Right. So, hey, while you're over at longboxheroes.com, of course, I think you're already locked in, but don't forget to do your pigskin pick'ems.
Right.
I went up a little bit this week. I'm in 39th place, and Todd is currently in a 5-way tie for 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm catching up. I know some people are like, at this point, if you're not in the top 10, that you'll never get there. I say slow and steady wins the race.
I think you're streaking, Joe, is the way to say it. So
yeah.
You're like a falling star.
Yeah, so don't forget to get your picks, and of course... don't forget to check out our store where you can get shirts and pins and stickers with our fancy logo on them. TeePublic sale is not this week. It's next week. We'll remind you then. 35% off your purchases next week. Even though I saw people tweeting out saying that it was this week, and I don't have the time to tell them they're wrong right now.
Yeah, you have too many irons in the fire.
That's right. You can make any and all of your eBay purchases through our eBay affiliate link. This page contains affiliate links. We may receive a small commission on purchases you make. You can use the affiliate link anytime you want to buy anything from eBay and support the show at the same time.
Yeah.
But the best and most important way to support the show is to sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/longboxheroes. For as little as $1 a month, you're going to get all this. You're going to get access to the soon-to-be-named network Discord, where you'll be able to see Todd's exclusive adventure in New York this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You're also going to get 2 bonus shows a month from Todd and myself. One is Previewing the Past, where we look at 30 years ago this month's previews catalog. October will be available, I think, for everyone by this weekend. Also, you get Comic Book Oddities, where we look at some of the lesser-known, much maligned, maybe rightfully forgotten attempts to bring comic books to the small and silver screen. We're not hitting the ones that hit. We're hitting the ones that didn't hit, maybe should be forgotten. A lot of pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. This weekend, we'll be rolling out Time Cop. And we did have Adam, my co-host from At Odds, Todd's co-host from Porch Talk, on to discuss that with us for Time Cop. And we have the rest of the year mapped out as well, because we spin the wheel there. But you also get access to the scans of those previews catalogs that we talk about on Previewing the Past. High quality, expertly done scans of those previews catalogs. $5 a month is going to get you all that. It's going to get you the bonus shows 2 weeks before everyone else, and it's going to get you Longbox Heroes After Dark 2 days before everyone else, so that you can listen to these shows in the correct listening order.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for the plugs. It's time for TV talk.
Sure.
And as we do with the way that things are lining up right now, we talk about Agatha All Along first, which is the full title of the show.
Mm-hmm.
This time has a little bit more of an 80s look pastiche to the task, the trial, the whatever that they're on, right?
Right, a very Evil Dead feel of this episode.
Sure. I think we mentioned on the main or on the After Dark that this week, give or take, is the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction coming out.
Mm-hmm.
As we record this day exact, to feel very old, is 43 years ago to the day that the first Evil Dead came out.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we get more competition. We get more infighting with the witches. The Salem 7 are gaining closer and closer. The witches ride their brooms. There's a good bit in there as to why they don't ride brooms anymore.
Right.
Because essentially it's because Hallmark commercialized witches riding brooms, so they gave it up.
Right, and to fight the patriarchy.
The teen, the boy, on his broom ride loses his spell book, but that's okay, because we get a big revelation at the end of the episode where one of the witches ends up dying, and that would be Alice. Then all the other witches apparently get sucked into the quicksand or whatever it is.
Right, off the road. If you get off the road, you get sucked down.
Right. And then we get the revelation of who the teen is. And again, I don't want to do a big pat myself on the back and say, woohoo, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the stupid Marvel Puzzle Quest game kind of spoiled it.
Right. I had Adams tell me, too, that I think he was on... The name was in the upcoming Funko Pop series for, all the characters. You know what I mean?
Right. And we're this late in the show, and whatever it is Billy, it is Wiccan, it is Wanda's son, Wanda, Scarlet Witch's son.
Right.
And apparently there was a YouTube teaser out for this episode already, because, I guess this was, the halfway season break. Not that they're taking a break, but it's the halfway point in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So they show this episode that's going to be out this week is going to be the origin of how Billy got to be the part that he's at. And then there's a new mysterious character that's introduced into the mix.
Okay.
I've been enjoying the show. I like sitting and watching it with my wife. We have fun with it.
Right. I will say this. I felt like the ghost who turns out to be Agatha's mother, that was kind of the, when it possesses Agatha, that was Deadite stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And you're in a cabin or whatever. But the bits that I like are all the jokes with the Ouija board. Are you moving it? No, are you? It's they did all the things that you do with a Ouija board.
Right.
And I like Agatha, Catherine Hahn, doing her impersonation of Kitty from that 70s show because she was joking, pretending that she was possessed. So I was like, that's pretty good. And I will say somebody sent me a link, and by somebody I mean the Mad Bassist, told me that 2 of the upcoming episodes in Agatha have the not safe for work label kind of a thing. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more Tushy in this season. So,
oh boy,
we'll see something. I don't know.
Interesting. Disney Plus getting a little saucy with their stuff, huh?
Right, risque. And I'll also say, because teen/Wiccan was slowly falling for Alice this episode, when Agatha killed her by stealing her powers because she used them on her, I have a feeling the road gives you what you want most, and at the end, he's going to want Alice back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just my take on it. But anyway.
But I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. I find it fun, But there's another show that I like even more, Joe.
Yep, and I'm going to let you take point on this one, and that would be Penguin.
Yes. So this is what I guess we would call a Penguin Light episode, wherein that the Penguin isn't in it a lot. So it leaves off where we kind of saw the last episode, or at least in the story kind of a deal, that you were saying it was a big mistake to leave Sophia.
Yeah, at least with the information we were given, sure.
Right. And this time it was the right thing to do, Joe, because we end up seeing that the Maronis just straight up tell her that they were working together. And it's just all falling apart with her trust issues that they kind of mentioned last episode. And now in this, and we end up getting the backstory of Sophia, of her before the hangman incident, and we get to see Penguin. If I thought the makeup was good with old Penguin, doing a younger, smoother looking Penguin, but not making it look stupid also, and being younger, I was amazed at that, because he was her driver. And we get to see her like story about her mother ended up hanging herself because she was depressed, and she finds her, and then there's this murder mystery of all these people were killed by being strangled, but they say it was, a hanging as suicides, and they think it's her father, and she ends up talking to the press, and Penguin betrays her. And the father, and I'm guessing it's all the father, ends up sending her gets her arrested for it, and she goes to Arkham, and it's her time in Arkham, and we get to meet other members. They make Magpie an A-lister as far as I'm concerned, and she falls into the depths of depravity with the guy who's running Arkham, and then I think his name was I forget who the doctor was that was nice to her.
That was who we saw as her psychiatrist in an earlier episode, Dr. Rush.
Right, Julian Rush. I didn't have it written down. So he ends up like trying to help her, and then through a series of events, we're seeing them use the bliss drug on them, and she says she's innocent. The only person who believes her is her brother. And the bits in Arkham, Joe, I was uncomfortable. It was so brilliant, like the insanity, all of it, right up to the point where we jump back into the present, because she called Julian Rush and he came and got her, and she wakes up, and the quick turn from the backstory of Arkham to in the present was very disjointing, which was how she was supposed to feel in the situation. I was like, what just happened? Why is she in the asylum with the dress? Oh, he ended up having her come, and you put it all together that Penguin betrayed her to her father, and that's why she doesn't like him. And she goes back to the house because she has to go to Europe, but she stands her ground. And the bit where she puts on the yellow dress, big ups on that yellow dress, man.
Todd, would you say, not to interrupt, would you say that dress was the face of this episode?
The face. You know who she reminded me of? The Phantom Lady from Golden Age Comics.
Yep.
With that, I wonder if they had cleavage in the IDBM explanation thing.
Let me look.
But she goes and gives the speech at the thing, and for the head of the family's birthday, and I'm like, this is fantastic. When she, with the little girl, flicks from Goofy when she's eating the meatball and kind of spits it out and crosses her eyes, and then gives the speech and uses the name of the episode, Centani or whatever it is, which, do you know what that means?
I do not.
That means I wish you 100 years of life. That's an old Italian, what do you ever call it when you clink the glasses, like thing.
Oh, so salute.
Salute, yes, like a well wish. So she's wishing all the people in the room 100 years of life, and then she murders them all with the furnace. And the bit where she's going through that, she takes the girl out and puts in the greenhouse because she says you're innocent, just like I was. and she saves him, but kills everybody but the head of the family by leaving the window. Joe, I know I'm doing this episode a disservice by the way I'm all over the place in explaining it. This was the bit of best TV I watched in a long, long time. And I'm like, from her going from the innocent girl who was before Arkham to the girl being broken in Arkham to the broken, strong version of her that comes out of Arkham, 3 different characters, give her the Emmy, man. Just hand it to her. Because this was a tour de force episode of Penguin that had 0 to 5% Penguin in it.
This has been a show that I've been very much enjoying. Like you've said, this has been the best episode of the series so far. Mm-hmm. The backstory, everything that you mentioned, the way that it looks, and so much of the color contrast that's used. We see with the crime stuff, everything is kind of washed with like this yellow or orangish light for everything, maybe to give it a little bit darker of an edge, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. When she goes to Arkham, everything's brighter, but not in like a good way, but it's a brighter to show how dirty everything is. Mm-hmm. And how filthy and corrupt the whole system of this is. You mentioned the bit where her father set her up. And I know you kept saying that the Penguin ratted her out. And yes, the Penguin did rat her out. But I question it every time that we talk about this. And so there's another thing we have to talk about. So this flashback is 10 years ago from our timeline that we're currently in, right? Mm-hmm. And the current day Penguin, I question, is he just this dumb, or is he playing everybody?
He's playing everybody, but go ahead.
10 years ago, though, was he that dumb? That he just thought he was looking out for her by, and again, ratting her out. Will we get remorse from the Penguin that when he realizes that it was that moment of him telling the dad that Sophia was talking to the reporter, the Summer Gleason girl, mm-hmm. That it was his fault? No. Because I think I think we got the real Penguin last week when he was like, I'm sorry for what happened to you, but I have all of this from what I did. And I have my I believe everything he said last week about it, but she just didn't know how far he had done what he had done. So, right, because we get the bit because obviously as Vic shows up to save Penguin at the end of last week's episode, we don't see the more of the discussion where the Falcone, the mother Falcone, is essentially like, or not not the Falcone, but the other crime family.
The Maronis, the lady from the Maronis
is like, you're the one who killed Al.
Oh, I glanced over that, sorry.
Right, and then he's trying to talk his way out of it, and that's when she looks at him like, you did what? Mm-hmm. And she knew from the beginning that he did, and Penguin worked so hard to convince Sophia that he's not the one who did it. And then it just comes out here, he did it.
Yep. Now, I'll say this, and we can come back around. I'm getting a strong vibe that it was never the father. Honestly, I think, because she says, oh, it's on your hand, you can play. There's a part of me that thinks the brother set her up. And I'm not going to say that they're going to, it's going to absolve Penguin of all the stuff, but I think it's going to be, it was your brother who sent you here. And that's kind of going to be a bit of it, if that makes any sense. That'll deaden the pain a little bit, but I could be wrong.
So I'm going to disagree with you slightly, only because we get the bit where the reporter is showing Sophia the pictures of the women that have been killed, that supposedly hung themselves. Trigger warning, I apologize. And that is what makes her flashback. And then seeing the marks on the neck and seeing the hands, the fingernails.
Right.
Is what makes her think back to finding her mother when she was a child
Oh, that's right. The brother would have been a child too, but go ahead.
The brother would have been younger than she was.
Right.
So she then recognizes those same telltale signs that she saw on her mother in these pictures, which makes her believe that now we go back even further to when she was a child. The mother did not hang herself, that the father set it up so that it looked that way that she did.
Right, because there was that.
And this is now his MO. Now, that being said, maybe the father's like, I don't know what to do. And Al, the brother, decides, okay, well, Dad, I know it's you. I've been helping cover for you. But because I've been helping cover for you, we could just pin this on Sophia.
Right. I don't know. We'll see. That's all interesting. The one thing that I will say is when Young Penguin reports, and when I say rat out, because he said he's the one who pays me, and it's my job to tell him everything that's going on.
To protect you. Like, right. I told you not to speak to the reporter.
Right. And
you went and spoke to the reporter. Mm-hmm. If you're not listening to me, you better listen to him.
Right. And then the bit where she says, and I think this is, kind of explains something that we saw. Congratulations. You got everything you want, which is the through line with, the bits in the last episode in the past. She goes, but now you and everybody you love is now on my father's radar. Who does the penguin love? He loves his mother.
Yep.
And
his mother was dead.
Yes. Who nobody knows is, so I'm like, I like that we get information and then we get questions, but we never get like 10 more questions to 2 answers, if that makes any sense. Yep. It's like, ooh, we get these answers, but now how does this affect this that you've, kind of hinted at? And I have never been afraid of going to a mental institution. I figure it's at some point in my future, but the Arkham that they established scared me, and how the father paid the head guy of Arkham to like set her up, and she kept going for shock treatments, and we meet Magpie, and then there's that crazy lady who's unchained and that like beats her up, and what they do. Like, I straight up think they just set Sophia up with the fork so her prints would be on the fork, and then that crazy person did themselves in. I was like, this is so weird, and the wallpaper is appearing from the room her mother was in, was appearing on her cell wall, and all the while Magpie is crazy and doing this like kid's voice. I don't know how to explain it. I keep going over it, but just a tour de force episode, Joe. So I don't know if you have any other points to hit.
2 last things just to wrap everything up with. Obviously this gets set up that while she's awaiting trial, Sophia is going to be in Arkham, and it's initially set up as 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the trial gets pulled because of how powerful her father is, and she ends up in there for 10 years. I'm sure their idea was, as you mentioned, with the woman who was out of the chains and the fork and everything else, that the idea was that Sophia was going to die in there. Mm-hmm. That it would never be. Right, and she won just by getting out. Right, mm-hmm. And now it's like one of those things like, now you've got to deal with me. And what you did to me that you thought would destroy me has only made me stronger. And now you don't know what monster you've created, sort of thing. Right. And then we talked about the penguin and his mother. I'm already thinking about the chills I'm going to have of that scene where the penguin goes to see the mom. Mm-hmm. And he goes in the house, and Sophia's already in the house waiting for them.
Oh, yes, that's walking in and hello, Oz. Oh, dear God. Oh, boy. And I'll say this, the word, because it's in my head now, the word I was looking for was toast, Joe. Toast, when you hold glasses up and clink and wish everybody well.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, listen. The TV shows were really good. Comics were really good this week. I think we had a lot of good discussion. Todd got a lot off his chest, headed to New York. Mm-hmm. And that was episode 732 of Longbox Heroes. Thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all here next week.
Remember, be a faucet, not a drain.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.
The Rob is a Longbox hero. The Rob is a Longbox hero. He gives us five stars.